What is up, everybody? Welcome to Birds of the Round Table. Today, we are talking offense and our top 3 reasons why the Eagles offense will dominate in 2026. We're also going to give you some breakout stars to watch on offense. Joining us, he is David Nees, PHL on X. What's going on, man?
Going on, man? Looking forward to tonight's show. I know it's probably mixed emotions, but I was kind of excited to see the Eagles playing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving afternoon, which is always, debatable if people like those kind of games, but I can work around it. I host Thanksgiving, so we're just going to be eating lunch instead of late dinner, I think, this year.
Yeah, that's going to be a wild day. That's a day of eating and drinking, of course. And do you know what time that game is? I don't know if I saw the time.
4:30.
It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a fun day. Guys, as always, if you're watching us live, comment. We'll throw your comments on the show and react. Again, we're talking top 3 reasons why we think the Eagles offense will rebound in a big way off of the disaster of Kevin Patullo. Let's jump right in, David. What's your number 3?
My number 3, I went with continuity. I think in the NFL, continuity matters. The 2026 Eagles are not rebuilding offensively. They're more evolving. Despite radical changes with the coaching staff, the Eagles still have much of the same personnel infrastructure in place. Jalen Hurts is back. The O-line, if healthy, will be one of the league's best. I still think they have an elite perimeter weapon in Devontae Smith. They have the right character and players who've already proven that they can win at the highest level. And I think that alone gives Sean Mannion an advantage that most first-year coordinators rarely get. Instead of bringing in a new culture or forcing a different identity, he's only being tasked with refining the existing one. And I think that'll be very advantageous for him. I think his background as a quarterback and his reputation as a detail-oriented communicator is going to help streamline plays, especially the incoming ones, which was such an underrated issue that caused a lot of confusion and problems in 2025, not getting the play calls in time, getting to the line late. So I think, the passing game will clean up some of the inconsistency that showed up on time. But, I think the continuity is there. They just needed somebody better in the headset.
It's a really good one. I'm going with the obvious, leading off the return of the best O-line in football. It's got to start there. I mean, my 1 through 3 are interchangeable. I think my 3 are really good in the sense that you could put it at 1. It doesn't matter, but we all know the Eagles' offensive line struggled last year. They were the best in the game for years at getting yards before contact, especially for their running backs. And last year was just a different feel, whether that was injuries, team, play calling. I thought Steen was a step down from Mekhi Becton. You look at, the pass blocking and run blocking metrics, 17th best in the NFL per Sharp Football. They had a pressure rate allowed of 37.2%, near bottom third of the league. A run stuff rate allowed of 21.3, the third worst mark in the NFL. And we talked last week about how high we are. We raved about our breakout stars, underrated players on this Eagles roster. It was Tank Bigsby because he hit the hole hard, fast, got yards after contact. And it was actually Saquon that just seemingly the defense just stacked the box, and the Eagles just did not have an answer for that all year. And you look at Saquon yards before contact, they went from 3.8 per carry in 2024 to 2.5. 40% of Saquon's carries last year gained 2 yards or less. The Eagles finished near the bottom of the league in average gain on first down. And, for me, it starts with this question with Jeff Stoutland on the out and Chris Cooper, a guy that played 8 seasons in the league, coached for the last 9, implementing a new blocking scheme. They're switching from a mid-zone blocking scheme to a wide zone, and they're changing a lot when it comes to what they want out of their offensive linemen. If you, I don't know about you guys, but I watch the 2024 season highlight reels on the reg. And if you watch that offense versus the 2025 offense, it starts with the O-line and not Jason Kelce, but guys in the second level and getting downfield. And we didn't see any of that last year, the pools and things like that. So for me, it's the offensive line. We got Ryan in the house. What's up, Ryan?
Hold on.
What's going on, man? We're talking top 3 reasons the Eagles offense will dominate in 2026. David went with continuity. I'm going the return to form for the Eagles O-line. Do you have one?
It's kind of along that line. It's the health of the offensive line. I feel like each week that comes out, another offensive lineman comes out and says, oh man, the things I was dealing with last year, so it just seemed like they all were wanting to or okay with playing through whatever pain they were dealing with. And yeah, obviously it had a huge effect on this team. And, you're talking about, getting to the second level, well, they could barely stand up, so they weren't getting to any level last year. So I think, from what I understand, a lot of them have gotten procedures in the off season. Some, may not be legal in the United States. And let's hope that's enough to get them back to at least a baseline of health.
How many games do you think Markel Bell plays in 2026? Any rough estimate?
Uh, I was gonna say 4.
Yeah, we'll make that like an over-under.
If he was a guard, I would say like 8.
Okay. Okay. All right, David, what's your number 2?
I went with one that I think is probably pretty obvious. I went with utilizing the middle of the field. The offense still has another gear in the passing game that they can excel to because the Eagles have never fully maxed out the usage of the middle of the field. Even when they had their Super Bowl offense that, everybody was just gushing about a couple seconds ago here in 2024, and they showed stretches of domination, and the offense generally lived just in like a highly efficient running game, isolated receiver routes, and a quarterback who was efficient and mobile, which masked a lot of the other issues, quite frankly. A new voice in the headset should unlock more concepts, more pre-snap motions, more throws to abuse linebackers, much higher usage of the middle of the field, and a higher percentage of targets that are easier to complete, which is just only going to benefit, Jalen Hurts. If Mannion can bring more timing routes and better spacing concepts while also keeping those vertical shots to Devontae Smith that he's been so elite at, this offense is going to be much harder to defend.
God, I hope that's the number. That's a top one. We talked a lot about that last week. Shameless plug, especially with Dontavion Wicks and Dallas Goedert. Who am I missing? Of course, Mekhi Lemon. But for me, I'm rolling with the return of Saquon and more outside zone. Saquon needs to get his groove back, and I don't know what was going on last season. I think we all know, but as bad as the Eagles' rushing attack was last year, he was still elite off the edges. He had 80 carries for 431 yards when attacking the edges last season per PFF, 5.3 yards per carry, 10 runs of 10 or more yards, and 20 missed tackles forced 5 times per game. In 2024, 798 yards, 18 yards of 10 yards or more, 27 missed tackles forced, 6.8 yards per carry, and 7.3 opportunities per game. So the opportunities went down, but I still think he was pretty darn effective. And most notably, we just need Saquon to bring back that explosive element of the Eagles offense. His explosive run rate, which is runs of 10 yards or more, went from 13+% to 8.1%. And a lot of that led to really long second and third downs. So no, I don't think Saquon lost a step. I think scheme fit and more outside zone opportunities, stop the running up the middle nonsense, get him outside. A more lateral offense is going to do wonders for Saquon. And I don't think we'll see the 2024 Saquon, but I think it's going to be a fun, similar to the O-line, return to form where he's got his, vibes back and he's slapping his helmet and getting big yards. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the versatility of this offense. You've added so many weapons this offseason. You now have 4 wide receivers who I feel, pretty darn good about. You have 2 tight ends, that they finally brought in a second tight end who can be really good offensively. You have obviously Saquon Barkley, but you have Tank Bigsby as well to kind of, you know, not only just spell, Barkley, but do some damage himself. And, I think there's just going to be a lot of weapons for Jalen Hurts to utilize. And I think because of that, offenses aren't going to, be able to just key in on 1 or 2 guys. You want to take away Devontae Smith? Okay, well, we have Hollywood Brown or Dontayvion Wicks or Dallas Goddard, or the list goes on and on and on and on. So go ahead and try and knock out a guy or two. We got 4 or 5 more. So
Okay, so more weapons for Hurts.
sure.
All right. Eli Stowers, over under on receptions for 2026. Let's go 29.5. Over for Eli Stowers.
Over.
29.5 is over for Ryan. What about you, David?
I'll have to go under unless Dallas Goddard gets injured. I just don't see him. I just don't see him on the field that much. I just don't.
I am.
You also said the magic word, if Dallas Goddard stays healthy.
Yeah, that is the key to it.
Fun. When does that happen? One.
Because the second tight end is Johnny Munt. Is that how you pronounce his name? I mean, he's definitely going to be the blocking tight
end. I'm not going to give them a number.
I mean, he's definitely going to be on the field a lot. So I just don't
But
see
I don't agree that you can't have both Goddard and Stowers out there as well.
I think Lemon plays that slot position that the second tight end normally would. I think that's his position. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I agree, but there is plenty of space out on the field there that I think a creative coach can utilize every single offensive weapon.
I hope they do.
Spoiler warning, the reason I asked that is we're going to be talking about that other tight end pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right, David, what's your number one?
I went with unpredictability. We touched on the offensive line earlier. A healthy offensive line coupled with a new foundation and this outside zone running scheme should make the day at the office easier for everybody on the offense. And if they can return to being dominant up front, everything just works. Play action works. RPOs work. Condensed formations, those outside runs, and it creates and forces defenses to hesitate. That's when, skill players, especially on the Eagles, that's what they've been brought in here to do, is to exploit that. The team is built to abuse hesitation. And the Eagles don't need to be pass heavy, but they just need to be unpredictable, which was something they most definitely were not last season. I mean, even KP said they just ran plays just to run them. Like it was just a bad call and they knew it and they did it anyway. You heard teams calling out our plays up to and including in the postseason game versus the 49ers. And if Mannion and his coaches can lean into disguise, sequencing plays better, and just start taking advantage of the opponent's scouting reports that the Eagles spend so much time assimilating and getting all of this information, and start using those tendencies against their opponents, they can be scary good because the personnel already strikes fear into opposing teams. I mean, quite frankly, they're loaded. But you add those little changes and nuances, and they can become as lethal on the field as they've been on paper the past couple of years. And I think that's, just being unpredictable. It would be nearly impossible for defenses to defend drive to drive.
That's a really good one, and it really feeds into mine as well. And I'm going, type it in here. I'm going fancy route trees. What I mean by that, or maybe route charts. Let's change it to route charts. Let's go fancy route charts. I remember watching the Eagles' vertical routes over and over and over again, and it just went nowhere. And then you would look up Amon-Ra St. Brown route charts, and you would look up, anything from Shanahan route charts, and just being so jealous of how much they just move these guys around. And that's what I'm excited about. especially with Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon and Dallas Goedert, and what that could potentially look like. The Eagles finally have guys that can create separation off the line. They finally have guys that can exploit the middle of the field. For me, just that ability to exploit the middle of the field, that Shanahan style of offense that we're going to be watching during training camp, that new look offense should be a lot of fun to watch. No more vertical routes or nothing in 2026. It's going to be a ton of lateral movement. It's going to be a lot of screen game. It's going to be a lot of under center, a lot of pre-snap motion outside zone, more RPOs, scheming receivers open, not vice versa, and just more sequencing and layered concepts, a more balanced offense that thrives on rhythm. And that's what we want. And how many times did we see the Eagles offense completely disjointed in 2025? So for me, I am freaking excited about waking up the next morning and pulling up the route charts of Devontae Smith and talking about it here on Birds of the Roundtable. What about you, Ryan?
I'm going to say more motion, less hitch routes. Don't even need to get anything more into that. I mean, the things that we clearly amateur, offensive play callers were scratching their heads as to why these things were not happening last year, and we refused to do motion. We constantly ran these hitch routes that just were god awful, and were not effective. And we failed to utilize the things that our talent and skill would suggest. And I think, from what I've read up on Mannion's offense, he seems to be already kind of going towards that route of utilizing those on the field and what they do. And, they motion is the quarterback's best friend. And, just anything that to make the job simpler for a quarterback, and not just Jalen Hurts, any quarterback, you can make their job easier, do it. So let's do it. It's not hard.
It's a good one. That's a good one. So those are our top 3 reasons why the Eagles offense will dominate in 2026. I think we're all on the same page from top to bottom. We're going to next talk about breakout stars on offense. Last week, it was Moro Jomo and Jalix Hunt. I'll lead us off. The guy I'm excited about on offense, I already talked about Tavion Wicks, who I'm really excited about. He was one of my underrated players last week. But I'm going Johnny Munt as a guy that I'm intrigued big time about.
I thought you said offense.
I am talking offense. And it would have been Ben Van Sumeren if he hadn't signed with the Buffalo Bills, because I think in a more under center offense, he would have been so good, because we saw that in 2024. But Johnny Munt, he's not a great receiver, but he's an elite blocker, and that's all I've ever wanted from a backup tight end. You look at Grant Calcaterra, who was a straight up embarrassment last year, putting players in bad position. That kind of qualifies too. Was the common pattern for the Eagles in 2024 or 2025. And, it's ridiculous. In no universe should Grant Calcaterra be on the field for 241 run blocking snaps. That is the definition of insanity right there. And they just could not seal blocks from the backside. They could not kick out from the front. And enter Johnny Munt, a guy that should be a huge improvement for Saquon Barkley and his ability to hit the outside. He's got really good hands. He knows how to win leverage. He can sustain and finish. And he's a guy that I think would look really good getting to that second level and make linebackers and defensive backs look silly. And he was among the top 10 tight ends in both run blocking and pass blocking per Pro Football Focus last year. And all the reasons we just discussed, especially on my list, I think Johnny Munt could be a really fun one to watch, especially amongst us Eagles sickos, especially on that, all 22. So that's where I'm going. Ryan, you go next.
Yeah, listen, I understand where you're coming from, but But to get excited about a guy who's only going to be out there to block and then get, hey, that's you.
That's the future of the NFL, dude. It's that we're going to see more and more tight ends.
You're fine. You're right. I don't doubt that. But any tight end that can only do one or the other is it's not a very good tight end in my book. Just saying.
I feel like it's a lost art. I feel like more heavy run offenses are evolving to 2-3 tight end sets. And I think for me, at least, having that ability to set the tone on offense, and a guy like Johnny Munt could be that guy. That's just,
Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of tough. Yeah, I guess I'll just kind of go the opposite route of you and say Eli Stowers.
okay.
While I know, again, he's a young kid. He does need to improve his blocking, obviously. But offensively, he's an absolute weapon. And, I'm really excited to kind of see how much he's able to kind of get out there and how much he's able to improve his blocking because, ever since he, transferred from being a quarterback, he has improved in that department every year. It hasn't been, leaps and bounds, but it's been improvement and there's been a willingness. And that to me is the first two steps into getting in the right direction. But I will say, yeah, I really have liked this kid for the last couple of years. I'm really excited to see what he can do in an Eagles uniform and kind of eventually take over the mantle from Dallas Goedert. So hopefully he can learn quite a bit from Dallas and ball out and just give the Eagles another weapon.
I have an Eli Stowers take after David goes.
So you want me to go?
Go for it, man.
My breakout.
Should I go? Should I just do it?
Yeah.
Eli Stowers will be less impactful than Markel Brown in 2026.
Markel Bell, you mean?
Markel
Yeah.
Bell. Yeah, did I say Brown? Markel Bell will have a bigger impact than Eli Stowers, at least this year. I think my feel is Eli Stowers is a bigger developmental player prospect than Markel Brown. And that is that means Eli Stowers is 2-3 years away, at least.
I aggressively disagree on that
That's
one.
fine.
If Markel Bell has a bigger impact, that means we're effed. That means somebody else got significantly hurt.
Okay.
And that's not a great thing. So you better wish for the opposite.
I'm going with what my gut tells me, and
I
cannot wait. In week 6, we're going to look back at this, and we'll make fun of that tape if he's like balling out.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope he has a very Harold Fanning rise, who I called, by the way, and was in love with last year.
I'm a huge fan of Eli Stowers, and the whole offseason, I basically said he was like one of the more eagerly tight end picks they could make, despite his blocking, struggles, because I think that's coaching, and I think he just hasn't grown into a full man body as far as strength. I think it's just building up strength. I think he's willing blocker. If you watch the tape, he just didn't have the muscle behind it to put a lot of it off. But I don't think he's like years away like Deibs does, but I do think this is more of a developmental year for him. I do think he's probably going to have.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, obviously. He's coming into the.
And he needs to add a lot of functional strength. I don't think he's as impactful as like Fanning or something. I just don't think he's, year one.
Obviously, Fanning was.
Yeah. I just don't think he's year one ready like that, but.
No, I agree. I'm just more wish that would be the case.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be great because his pass catching skills are definitely NFL ready. But
Sure.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to watch because Goddard's health is going to dictate the answer to that question. I mean, that's basically what it is because they don't really have another pass catcher they can throw out there because I can't really see a path for Grant Calcaterra to be on the roster come September 1st. I mean, it looks like long odds. I mean, I would rather keep Daquan Wright as the fourth tight end.
I hope they do.
I don't even think that's a question. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I like Wright, actually.
I do too. I was a big fan of him.
Very, very much.
But to move off tight end, my breakout player was Dontavian Wicks. And I know I'm kind of bullish on him, but I think he has a real chance to become one of those players Eagles fans look up the stats for in November. And you look and you see he already has 400 plus yards as the fourth or fifth receiving option on this team. And he's not going to get a lot of talk national about him, but his understanding of spacing and physicality within routes and his willingness to block, and he has an ability to win after the catch. And I just think that fits so much of what the 2026 Eagles are trying to do. And he's, not a replacement for wide receiver 1 or 2, but more there to complement them. And I think that's important, whereas Jahan Dotson was kind of, if Smitty got hurt, if A.J. Brown got hurt, more of that kind of player. Where I don't think, your wide receiver 3's like that this year. I think he's a guy who's there to truly complement them. And, defenses are always going to tilt coverage towards their top weapons like Devontae Smith. And if they put Hollywood out there on a vertical, they're going to, have to cover them. But it opens up opportunities for those tough, smart receivers underneath who understand leverage. And I think Mannion and the Eagles will emphasize timing and rhythm concepts more consistently than we've seen in the past. And if they do, Wicks could quietly become one of Hurts's most trusted chain movers on the roster.
Yeah, I'm honestly, as much as I am, still not thrilled about the whole AJ Brown whatever. I do like what they have done, adding Hollywood and Wicks, and adding another pass catching tight end. Adding some more depth on the offensive line, and if you throw 4 wide receivers out there, who the heck are you going to be covering? I mean,
it's a new way to stress the defense. Definitely,
sure
their
is.
offensive scheme is definitely designed to not just stress vertically, which is what we're all used to with all those vertical routes, but it's also designed to stress it underneath, which is something we're not used to seeing.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that as well.
It's a really good one. Can I add one more?
Sure.
You always do something weird and
Always.
It's not for us. It's more so for like the general audience. But like, I feel like we're at the point of the off season where your typical discourse around at social media, at least on my end, is the amount of hate towards Jalen Hurts is like the freaking roof. So I'm going to make one of my breakout stars on offense, Jalen, because the amount of endless shit talk about this guy, the amount of just microscopic ridiculousness over minuscule issues with Jalen Hurts. And I just don't get it. Like, he's a guy that gives you nothing to talk about. He's so humble. He's so hardworking. He's generally beloved within the locker room. He doesn't have a podcast shitting on his teammates. There's no TMZ involvement or sexual assault allegations. There's no ball deflating scandals. There's no messy divorce with his wife banging the jujitsu instructor. Like, all this guy does is win football games. And I just want to give him a shout out because we're at that point where I'm freaking exhausted. Freaking exhausted of, guys picking apart his game. And you know what, guys? I try to be as even keel as possible, but all this guy has done is led his team to 2 Super Bowls. Yet all the narrative I see around his regression last year feels so forced. There were so many issues around the offense in 2025. He's not perfect. I still need to see more of his legs in 2026. It's his legs that forces defenses to respect everything else in this Eagles offense. That is key. But I believe in Jalen Hurts, and we have seen it in 2024 under center, with Ben Van Sumeren and Saquon Barkley and hitting the middle of the field. It's there. Limited sample size. I believe in Jalen Hurts 1,000%, and the discourse needs to stop. I'm adding into the list.
It's every year. It's every year. It quiets down for a little bit. And then when the national media and the local media come together and they realize, oh, well, we don't have anything else to talk about right now, guys. Should we just shit all over Jalen Hurts now? All right.
You may think you know McDonald's drinks, but you don't know them like this. From fruity refreshers like the strawberry watermelon refresher and the mango pineapple refresher with popping boba, to crafted sodas like the Sprite Berry Blast with berry-flavored Sprite topped with cold foam. Who knew ice-cold drinks could be so fire? 6 all-new drinks are here. Try them all, now at McDonald's. Refreshers contain caffeine.
But it's more so to get reaction from us fans.
Oh, 100%. But still, it's national, it's local. It does not matter. It is, this guy cannot do enough to, I think about every other quarterback, top 10 quarterback, and they do plenty wrong. They make mistakes. They turnovers, this, that, the other, whatever. And they're not scrutinized for half of the stuff that Jalen is. And yet, all Jalen does is win more than any other quarterback. I don't know about you, but that's really I don't care if he literally throws the ball for 50 yards a game and whatever, they win the game. I don't care. He's a guy that just wills his team and leads his team to victories.
Yeah.
That should be the number one stat. That's all I care about.
A lot of, stuff on social media that he's embraced the ability to, utilize the middle of the field with his new offensive coordinator and things like that. Of course, I need to see it to believe it in a bigger sample size. But David, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think the reason he's such a target for the media on a national level is he's not emotional. He doesn't lash out. You're not going to see reaction from him. So you can say things about him that cause speculation without him ever saying anything about it because he just is not going to feed into it. All he does is put his head down, go to work. Like this offseason, you'll hear the negative stories, but what you haven't heard is for the past couple months, he's been working out with Devontae Smith and Elijah Moore constantly. They've been together constantly. Look at every event. Who was with them at the flag football? Smitty. Who was at them at that little gala they had where his wife went recently? I can't keep up with all the events, but it was Smitty. They are very close, and all they've done is just work hard this whole entire offseason. And they're not getting reactions. Even at the celebrity softball game, somebody tried to goat Devontae into saying something about the AJ Brown situation. Right. It's just not going to happen. They're just built differently, and he becomes a target just because of he internalizes everything. He's unemotional about it, so he's easy to say things about because he just isn't going to lash back and make a big scene of it. He's just going to put his head down and go to work. And as far as middle of the field, and he doesn't understand football. He's a coach's son. He's forgotten more football than any of us have ever known. And for anybody to think otherwise is just foolish. It's just silly. I mean, it's just the whole narrative is silly. And he's a really good person. I've spent very little time around him. And in fact, this year's the first time I've ever been able to talk to him one-on-one. And it was just like a few weeks ago. And he is just such a nice, genuine guy. And I never knew that either, because in the locker room, he's distant from everybody in the media there too. So I just had never seen that side of him. And he's just a very kind-hearted person who just goes to work, and all he cares about is winning. He doesn't care about anything else. And I love that about him. And I kind of get like you do. I kind of get disgusted reading all of the discourse all the time. It's just frustrating. It's old and quite frankly boring.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think he deserves
Lazy journalism.
Exactly. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. We need to see it. You see the list. We will revisit this in like week 6, 7, 8, roughly. And did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? But I think Hurts can do all the things that we're hoping he can do.
And spoiler alert, he was as frustrated with the offense last year as everybody else was. He didn't like it either.
So we'll see. There's our top 3 reasons why the Eagles offense will return to form. There are 4 breakout stars on offense. We will continue this. Ryan, final thoughts on the offense in general?
Yeah, I'm just real excited about this offense. And again, I think it's while it's certainly sad, with the AJ Brown stuff going on. But like I said, I think they have done such a great job of mitigating the immediate loss of AJ come June 1st, should that be what happens. That I think we're not gonna see it so impactful right away as I think a lot of people were fearing. And again, I'm always a big fan of having lots of talented options. And I think the Eagles have surrounded this offensive and given Mannion and Jalen Hurts a couple extra, keys to some nice, sports cars. And, I think if you can get the offensive line back and healthy and, not where they're just lingering and this, that, and the other. And who knows, maybe depth had some issue with it, especially early on, as to why some of those players kept playing. But maybe some of the moves they've done depth wise could potentially help them. Maybe choose to sit out a few games and get healthier. You never know. But if the offensive line's healthy, Saquon's back, and if Saquon's back, watch out, through the air as well. Because that's, again, one thing opens the other, that opens the other, that opens the other. And this offense has the talent to be one of a top 5 offense easy. It's just, will Mannion be able to lead this team to that? And how long will it take for them to truly get into rhythm? So I'm really excited, especially the 2 rookies. And this offense certainly has a lot to look forward to this upcoming season.
Absolutely. David.
Yeah, I agree with most of everything Ryan said. I'm also excited to see the changes. Sean Mannion has a lot of people's hopes on his shoulders going into this season. I think you probably do need to temper expectations a little bit. The fact he is a first-time play caller, that doesn't necessarily mean he won't be great at it. I don't think experience doing it so much dictates if you're successful or not, as much as if you're just good at sequencing plays and understanding the rhythm of the game. And he's clearly shown an ability to do that to the upper brass of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why he was given the keys to this. I think the selection in the first round with Mekhi Lemon made it appear that A.J. Brown is likely gone, and it also revealed that when they didn't draft an A.J. Brown clone-style receiver, how vastly different the offense is going to be, because they didn't grab an outside receiver who's going to dominate in that way. They grabbed somebody who's going to get, high percentage targets, someone who's going to work the middle of the field, someone who's going to be in the slot. So I think it kind of showed both of their intents there. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I do temper my expectations a little bit because we're relying on rookies on the field. We're relying on first-time play callers. And quite frankly, we're relying on the fact that Nick Sirianni is going to not get involved in the offense if he doesn't like something. I mean, it's been 5 years of him having the final say, and that's a hard thing to give up. Giving up autonomy of an offense is not an easy job, especially when it's what you love doing. I mean, it's one of the reasons Doug Peterson was no longer a head coach here, because he didn't want to give up his full autonomy, his ability to, bring in any assistant he wanted. And Sirianni did what Peterson wouldn't, and we're going to find out if it's going to work or not very shortly.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. A training camp is going to be really fun because, like you just said, we went from truly Jalen Hurts safety valve being A.J. Brown on one-on-ones down the boundary in big third down situations, and as elite as Jalen Hurts is throwing the deep ball, and as elite as A.J. Brown was on those situations, we're going to see a more efficient offense getting guys in motion, like Ryan said, using the middle of the field, like David said, and hopefully that, utilizes Jalen Hurts' legs and makes the Eagles offense more unpredictable, gets defenses back to second guessing, and can get that split second for Saquon Barkley to take it to the distance. So it's going to be really fun. Ryan, anything you want to plug?
No, nothing to plug. Just having a beer.
David?
No, you can follow everything on Philly Sports Network or my X handle. Everything I do is there, man. I'm just excited like everybody else. I'm looking forward to it. Love the conversation. You mentioned it earlier. You mentioned Ryan and ours two comments about the offense, but your fancy route charts, that one excites me too, because we all love going and seeing those routes where it's all scribbles.
Yes.
We all love looking at that. And when the Eagles are just 4 lines going straight out, it disgusts us every Monday
Yeah, I
morning.
love that.
So yeah, seeing a bunch of scribbles on the chart is going to be a lot of fun.
David gets it. Yes, absolutely.
And
And it would make me so jealous.
I can't wait for the schedule release on Thursday.
Yeah, that's going to be fun too. Yeah.
Officially playing the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving, it looks like.
I especially like the comment from Dave about that is going to be a work in progress. I mean, we remember Saquon Barkley's unbelievable season in 2024. A lot of people forget, like, that offense struggled at the beginning of the season.
Sure.
What's a realistic time frame week-wise to judge this offense? Is it, I mean, probably like week 10? Is that fair?
Say about halfway.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
we're truly just looking for is an offense that finds itself, improves as the season progresses, but honestly finds an identity, because I feel like the Eagles offense truly struggled with that last year.
Yeah. Week to week improvement, and just the operation being better, like the play call going in, the team getting to the line, just the operational part of the game that was just total disarray last year. You just want to see a product worthy of an NFL team, and they have the talent to go all the way, quite frankly, as long as they can clean up all the little nuances that just went to hell last season.
Yeah.
The personnel's there, man. It's just they just got to get it together.
Yep. All right, guys. That wraps it up. Next week, we're talking top 5 reasons why the Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2026. We're also going to rank 5 players in terms of impact in 2026. What that is, I'm going to make rankings, and Ryan and David are going to rank them without knowing the players in each of the based on their impact in 2026. So that'll be fun.
And your top 5 reasons that the Eagles will win the Super Bowl in 2026 can't be linebacker Eli Stowers, Ryan. You're going to have 5 different things.
Well, considering, I hope you don't mean combined, but I mean, I'll figure some out. I'll put 3 other reasons.
Yeah. Ryan's already stumped. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Birds of the Roundtable will be back Monday night at 8 o'clock. He is Ryan Reese. He is David. I am Deibs. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay awesome.